Hello and welcome to the Dragon Shed for another project. Now I'm not entirely sure if the blingy apron video has come out yet. If it has, this is kind of a follow-up, although not anywhere near the same sort of thing. Essentially I made the apron for Christmas and this is a request that's come through from the same person for the spring. So same customer, different job, but I've actually gone through a proper design process. Because the design process with the apron was make it blingy, and that was the only instruction I had. So if that video's up, I'll put a link to that one somewhere. So yeah, so without any kind of real instruction, that's where I went with this one. I wanted the instruction because if I'm making for someone as a gift, I don't know them and I've got no idea, you know, what kind of thing they like. So this is going to be a box for a a baby now, so a very young child. So I don't know whether the parents are going to use it as a keepsake box or what, but the brief this time was to have a box for a little boy called Henry who goes by the nickname of Fox. So that was where I was kind of going with. So I did a bit of a doodle and I worked out a couple of options. You won't be able to see from that distance, so don't worry about it. But I worked out a couple of options for different designs for the sides of the box and the top of the box. I looked in my stock to see what size of boxes I had, and I also went on to eBay and picked out a couple of fabrics that had boxes on them. So I got a note back from the lady in question who specified the size of box she wanted, the design she wanted, and the fabric. So yes, I have a proper specification and proper design instructions, so that's a good thing. So I've actually had to hold on for a couple of weeks for this fabric to arrive, because this one came from India and it took a little while. So this is a really nice kind of what do you call it, olive green background with lovely foxes on. So that's going to be my lining fabric. So I'm going to use that as the basis for the design. Okay, so the paintwork on here has dried. I've got a really nice bobbly texture on the lid that I don't have as much of on the sides. I think that's right. So there's a bobbliness, a texture on the sides of the box, and then it's kind of more extreme on the top. But I like that feel, and the relief gel has given everything else a nice outline and somewhere to go. So now I'm working on the kind of the final bit of decoration, and that's gilding. And I haven't really done much gilding before. I did some a while ago, but I haven't done anything recently. So I'm a little bit out of practice. So we'll see how this works. So what you need for gilding is a large flat brush and a makeup brush, or a very, very soft one. You need a brush or an applicator for your glue. Probably not that one. Ideally one that's quite stiff. Not that stiff. That's better, that you can get into all the angles with. So I'm using here some gold leafing glue. It isn't size, it's not the stuff the traditional stuff, but it'll do. And I've got my gold leaf papers here. These I got off of Wish even, so I'm not sure about how well they're going to act. But I'll very carefully lift one up. These should come between two. That's two lots, okay. You have two pieces of paper with your gold leaf in between. Now ideally you want to keep it in the paper for as long as possible, because it will pick up the static on your fingertips and it will go everywhere otherwise. So I'm going to start. Oh, I also need a little bit of cotton wool or some sort of soft rag to kind of polish the leaf into place. So I'm going to start by just painting a little glue. So I'm going to squidge a wee bit onto the brush and work on a small section at a time. It helps if you work on a section that is about the width of your large brush. So this is a 1.5 inch brush, so if I work a section about that big, that means I can cover that section in pretty much one movement. So I'm just giving the whole of this section here a brush over with the glue. As I said, you don't need very much, just need a very thin layer. Okay. So it goes on a little bit white and then it will dry somewhat clear. So you need to be fairly patient and just wait for that to set. Whilst I'm waiting for that, I'm going to move on to another section. Now these letters here I want to gild, but not a lot. So I'm just kind of roughly brushing over the relief with not very much glue at all, so that I end up with patches of colour rather than solid ones. So I think that's about dry enough. So what I'm going to do is cut down the paper, again keeping it within the paper as long as possible, and then across. Much easier to work this way. I'm going to remove one of the paper sheets. You can see it's already curling on me, and that didn't quite work. So Ideally I want it to lay, that's it, lay across the brush like that, so it's then easier to place. So push it up like that, and then press it into place, and just help it around the corners. And switch to a softer brush, just bounce up and down on it slightly. This extra bit I'll put over the back here. This way you can gap fill as you go. So I just realised that I've actually deleted the footage of me putting the hinges and things on. Oh well, never mind. Okay, so this is Henry's box completed. These hinges I got from Wish are pretty good. They do what they're intended to. They stop the lid from falling back too far. Although possibly you could do with slightly longer bar so it's angled a little bit more. Because there's a tendency to want to flick forward, although it's quite tight so it's not going to fall and trap fingers or anything. So, quick review of these, I think. This is a great little piece of technology. Cutting the hole in the wood for the little bar can be difficult because you need to kind of go at an angle or make a really quite large hole. So trying to do that in the width of the support bar is quite difficult. These ones I've had to infill the paint with some black just to kind of hide the amount of wood I end up having to take out to get the bars to move. They're a little stiff now, but I suspect that with use they'll loosen up, they'll sort themselves out. The screws that came with are tiny. They're only about 4mm maybe, so I traded up for virtually double the size. So this is pretty much a 1cm 10mm screw. So I think that's a better idea for something like this. It's going to have a lot of pressure on it over time. These small screws I use for the clasp anyway, because that's not really that important in terms of structural work. In terms of the design itself, this is what was agreed, and I do kind of like the slightly rustic look. I ended up using 2 layers of gilt on the lettering, and then rubbing a bit and pulling some off so it looks a little bit aged. I prefer that to being kind of shiny new. This is going to kind of dull down a little bit over time anyway. So I like my little cartoony fox. I'm not that good at doing furry animals. I don't know what it is. Furry animals I have difficulty with, so I went cartoony rather than real. So I think that's good. The paint texture I really do like. Using the sponge to create a slight texture on the sides, and then really kind of hitting the texture on the top gives it a real feel. So it's a real it's a box that your hands remember first, I think, and I like that option really. So this has had a couple of coats of spray poly, so that should be good in terms of finish. I'm not going to leave it closed for a little while because spray poly and acrylic have a tendency to be quite sticky, so when you close a box it'll kind of jam itself together and stay stuck, so I don't want that to happen. So I'll leave this open for at least another 24 hours and possibly just put on a very light coat of corn flour, just kind of rub that in, and that just stops any kind of residual stickiness before I package it and send it off. So that is this month's scroll saw project. There wasn't much in the way of scroll sawing actually. It was more about having the new toy, which having only done this much so far, it works quite well. So yeah, I'm happy with what I produced, and I'm sure my customer will be quite happy with this. So yeah, that is this week's or this month's scroll saw project, and I'll see you again next week.